Oh yeah, it's your boy Livewire, and I'm back in the motherfucking building, baby. So what's going on, people? I hope y'all been gaming like myself, and then really getting a chance to enjoy this particular game. Actually, ReCore. I've been playing it for a good week, solid. Still playing a few other games like NBA 2K. I just jumped on that, and I'll like to talk about that at a later time. But I really wanted to, take my time with this particular game, ReCore, before I really dove in and spoke about it. Now, this is really kind of just showing you how much time I actually played the game. So I'm not giving you some bullshit review basically saying I played the game for 4 hours. No, I played the fuck out of ReCore. I played the fuck out of it. And after playing this game, I can give you a true evaluation of whether or not it's a game that you may or may not want to get. Now, for me personally, ReCore is a game that you pretty much have to try, to really understand, the mechanics of the game. Because this is my biggest issue with a lot of people that review ReCore, is the fact that either they reviewed, it for an hour, 2 hours, maybe fewer, or they say, well, I didn't really review it, but I kind of looked at gameplay of it. Now, and one of the things that I heard people say is, oh, well, it looks simplistic. And I played this game a lot. And being simple is definitely not something I would consider this game to be. This game has a lot of challenges. But the thing is, if you're only playing through the first hour, 2 hours, which is pretty much a tutorial for the game, you're really not going to experience many challenges. They're basically slowly walking you into the game, trying to show you how to use basically all your weapons and things of that nature. Now, that is, I guess that will be a bit of a flaw in the case of the game, because it does take a while before you really have access to all of your loadouts for the your weapons, as far as the colors, and your bot companions. I think trying to, if I can remember correctly, I think it was about 4 hours or maybe a little bit longer before you really got all of your bot companions. Now, to be honest, in this game, even though you have, was it 4 bots? I think it was supposed to be 5. That 5th one is missing from what I've seen. But from the 4 bots, to be honest, you really only need 2. To be honest, in most cases, only in a handful of situations. I wouldn't even say that one. Only in small situations do you really need more than 2. And to be honest, the best 2 to go, that combination will be Duncan and Seth. And obviously you could change the cores up however you please, but what I mean is, the gorilla bot and the spider bot. That's basically what I'm talking about. Those 2 bots are pretty much what you need, because Seth, which is the spider, you need him to traverse certain areas where you just can't get to without the spider bot's help. And then Duncan is pivotal when you're talking about combat. Now, he's not great in all situations of combat, but he's great in most. And man, he's just badass. He's strong as hell. Dude, he be busting ass, and I'll be like, damn, this the thing that you'll learn about this game is you really can't play this game without your bots. Anybody who's telling you, oh, well, it was easy without the bots, is a fucking liar. Because there's certain bosses and you just can't get past without using the bots in order to help you. You just cannot get past it. And the thing is that you're going to have to use the right combination, because you have enemies that fight from a distance, and then you have enemies that fight up close and personal. Now, Duncan is best served fighting up close and personal. Seth is great at shooting enemies from afar. So that's why I said that combination right there is probably the best combination to have. Now, yes, if you switch up the cores, each bot will get different abilities for that. I haven't really done that all that much, just because I just like, I like my characters the way they're set, and I like their skill set the way it is. So it just works for me to keep Duncan inside the Gorilla Bot and Seth inside the Spider Bot. But yeah, it's up to you, however you really want to choose to, change up the characters, your bot characters, in order to help you get through certain areas of the game. The big thing about ReCore, I would say, is, it's platforming, but then on top of it is the dungeons. Now, they do an interesting mix of the type of dungeons that you go into. So sometimes you go into a dungeon, and basically a dungeon consists of, all right, you have time, you have keys that you have to unlock, and then you have a core that you have to obtain. And those are the three things you have to do. If you get all three within the time frame, then you'll be able to unlock, extra ability, this extra chest, and then get access to whatever, whether it's new skins, or it's some proximity core, whatever. Those things will be available to you only if you basically you complete the dungeon challenge in full. Dungeon challenges are fucking pain sometimes. Sometimes they're not. The thing I notice is, after you play it a while and kind of figure it out, it becomes a lot easier, but also you're gonna have to level up. There's just no way around it. Like, you're not gonna, like, there's certain dungeon challenges you're not gonna finish in the allowed time without really having your level up. And from what I'm seeing, I think the highest level is 30, if I'm not mistaken. Because that's where I kind of capped off at. I haven't really gone past that, and I've been playing for at least a decent amount of time. So I'm thinking 30 is it. I really haven't capped off at 30. So my level's at 30, but I haven't gotten the full attack, the full defense, and the full energy levels up to where it's considered to be full 30. So I'm close, but not completely there. But yeah, what I see with the dungeons, man, the dungeons are definitely challenging, and it's just a pain in the ass. Probably the hardest part is the end. I mean, out of all the places that you fight, is definitely the hardest is the end, when you have to go through basically multiple floors in order to fight a boss character. It's just, that shit is, I mean, for me, I just found it to be a pain in the ass, because fighting the bosses is one thing. I mean, you can get through them sometimes well enough. And the thing that's cool about this particular area is there's no time, so I don't really feel obligated to go back and have to redo this area just like the dungeons in order to get a full completion. But the shit is that shit is a headache, man. There's certain parts on that dungeon I was like, holy shit, who the fuck designed this shit? This is some goddamn bullshit, man. This shit is crazy. But the thing that's cool about it is, because it's so challenging, that when you actually finish it, you're like, fuck, man. There's so many times that I finished a level that I was like, yo, this shit is ridiculous. And I just had to record it. I had to, because the shit they were making me do was nuts, man. Fucking jumping through lasers on disappearing platforms and shit. That shit was crazy. Yeah, man. To me, the game has a lot there. Its challenges are definitely there. And I think the people that complain about it are saying that it's the game and being very general about it, but they're not really talking about what it is they're really upset with. All right, I'll tell you this: the load times could be better. They could be better. They even put in a patch just recently today. It's gotten better, but it's not, it's still not great. Um, but I mean, I guess you chop it down from a minute to 30 seconds, and it is what it is. I mean, I hear that the same thing is the issue with Bloodborne, and I know damn for sure is the issue with The Witcher. Granted, those games are a little, well, I don't know so much about Bloodborne, but The Witcher is definitely a lot bigger. So it's understandable that your load times are just ridiculous in that game. Um, but what I will say is, back to these people that complain about the game, is that I think they're not really saying what exactly bothers them, which I think is the graphics. To me, to be honest, the graphics aren't as good as they could be or should be. It's not a by no means is an ugly game. It's just not very polished. You know, and this day and age where you got games like Tomb Raider and Uncharted, and even though those games are $60 titles, you know, you still going to see a lot of comparisons of why this game doesn't look like this, just because the expectations for the game were to look like that. I mean, it is what it is. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to be upset that it doesn't look that way. It's just, for whatever reason, the developers weren't able or didn't, get the game's graphical abilities to be on par with those games, or at least close to. And I think it's sad because a lot of times people, they look at the game and then they judge it and say, well, it doesn't look the way I want it to look, so therefore it's shit, without really giving the game itself a chance. Because to be honest, I don't care if a game is the best looking game or the worst looking game. When you play a game after playing it for a couple hours, you really don't notice the graphics after a while. There's very few games that you do, especially games that you're putting a lot of hours in. A lot of times after a while, you really don't notice the graphics. Now, what I can say is, with ReCore, there's some aspects of the game that an action adventure usually has that this doesn't. Like, they don't have the big cut scenes and things of that nature. Like, they're not gonna have that a la Tomb Raider type feel or that Uncharted type feel where you have an action adventure, and either they don't have the in-game kind of cutscenes. Basically, you're just running and jumping and dodging shit, or they don't have the CGI or whatever in-game graphical cutscene. I think that would have helped if they did have something like that with the game. People judging the game, because let's be honest, people have been accustomed to doing those type of things in action adventures, and even though you don't want to have a carbon cut out, it's just that people are used to having some kind of over the top type of scene like that in an action adventure, and that just wasn't there in this game. And that not being in the game, kind of, for some people, I think it diminished what they feel is their payoff. Like, let me tell you like this. Like, I'm a basketball fan, all right, and I can appreciate basketball whether or not I'm seeing highlights or not, because to me it's all about the execution. Whether or not when I'm watching a basketball game, professional or college, is the execution up to the standard that I'm looking for. That's what I'm looking for. And to me, execution relies on, in gaming, goes on gameplay. But for some people, if a basketball game doesn't have a lot of 3-pointers being hit or a lot of people dunking the ball, it's just boring to them, because they're not seeing highlights. some people just need to see explosions and things blow up in a video game for them to feel like, okay, I'm experiencing a good game. If they're not getting those things, they just feel that it's, you know, it's just not living up to their standards. So it is what it is. But to me, I think that ReCore overall is a good game. It has its flaws. Graphically, it has its flaws. With the bugs, it has its flaws. And to be honest, I think that the game, you know, probably deserves something around a 7 to a 7.5. You know, could it be a little bit lower? Yeah, it could be. So if people gave it like a 6 point whatever, 6.7, I can understand that too, because some people just weigh a little bit harsher on, you know, bugs and, you know, not having graphical, you know, showcases in their games. It's just, it is what it is. You know, some people can play a shit game, but as long as it looks good, they don't give a shit. You know, that's not particularly me. I'm very much more so for gameplay. That's why I really like ReCore and I like what the game offers. But to be honest, if you're not a skilled gamer, if you're not, you know, really into the gameplay per se, you're more like, you just like finishing the story and being done with it, then ReCore might not be the game for you. Just because it's not a very long story. Like, the game will take you a while to finish, but the story aspect is not that long. Most of the story is told through audio logs, and, you know, for some people that's just not good enough, you know. But for me, because of the gameplay, I think the game is definitely like a 7.5 or maybe a little bit lower, you know. But it's definitely a good game. If you're looking for a new experience, I say definitely pick it up. But yeah, man, that's my thoughts on ReCore, man. And this is your boy Livewire. And I'm out this bitch, baby.
Check it out.